Hello, my name is Shayna Scott, and this is my ENT630 Toolkit presentation on Production and Operations Management. For starters, I will begin by reviewing the common dilemma that many entrepreneurs face as far as whether to outsource or not outsource production elements, and in doing so I will review things to consider when making this decision, the most commonly outsourced tasks as far as positives and negatives to outsourcing. So, to begin with, what are things to consider when making this decision? At the end of the day, it is strictly a business decision. It's good to ask yourself how important the task is in question as it relates to the business itself. After deciding this, you should then ask yourself if outsourcing will actually improve the performance or value of the business. All business circumstances are unique, but in the end, it boils down to what needs to be done to efficiently operate, and ultimately, what should be sought after is growth. So, what are the most commonly outsourced tasks? Outsourced tasks can vary based on the business. For example, a tech company goes through a lot of technological changes, therefore, they'll oftentimes outsource development work among many other tasks. However, there are some tasks that are commonly outsourced among small businesses, and these tend to be accounting, social media, dealing with those pages and outreach that takes place throughout them, website development, marketing, customer and technical support, as well as distribution. So with outsourcing, there are always positives and negatives as there are with anything else dealing with business. Outsourcing can be beneficial in that it removes some of the constraints on business owners, allowing them to focus on the business itself and growth. By having the proper attention and care provided to tasks, it ensures that the business is operating at its strongest and ultimately increases value. Outsourcing is also helpful when an entrepreneur does not have a budget at the time to hire an internal team to perform the tasks. As with anything, there can also be downsides to outsourcing. It can be more difficult to control the quality of service being delivered, and depending on where or what is being outsourced, there is also the issue of time variations, time constraints, and even language barriers. So these are just some of the common issues that can be faced when doing outsourcing, as well as positives that come along with it. Now to take a look at distribution, shipping, and logistics. I will review things to consider when doing the planning process, how to get competitive quotes, as well as resources and tips that are available for small business owners. So things to consider when planning. In being a small business, there are many things that one can consider. The product or service being offered will dictate a lot of these things. However, it is imperative to create a logistics management strategy that will provide a successful outcome for the business. In order to formulate a solid and comprehensive plan, there are many key things to consider. These are, but are not limited to, transportation, which is most commonly outsourced to a logistics company, inventory management, warehouse and distribution, material handling, as well as packaging. When reviewing the things that are outsourced, one of the main variables that one must consider is pricing. And it is very important to get competitive quotes at all times to make sure that you're getting the most for your money and you're being economically feasible for your business. So being in a time crunch can lead to a lot of minimal effort being put into getting the best price for logistical needs. But it is strongly encouraged to check with multiple carriers to try and negotiate quotes. Carriers are more likely to adjust quotes when they know that there is competition, especially if the competition has a better price. It's good to start with at least 2 to 3 quotes to maximize chances of finding the right one. And you can always use resources such as Google, or even check to see who other businesses that are offering similar products or services in the industry may be using for their different logistical needs, and even within your network to try to find where to start as far as searching for different quotes. So I just mentioned a few things that could be helpful, but there are other resources available to assist small businesses with logistical matters. Dealing with third-party logistics, here are a few different resources that are available. You can find them through the internet, and their blogs that have a plethora of information going over businesses that help with logistical needs. There's also software available such as Shipper's Edge, MercuryGate, and Info Plus. And when it comes to software, this can be expensive, but there are some out there that can meet the budget and the need for the company at the time. And maybe once the company has more money available, they can stretch beyond the software to other resources to meet their need. Partnerships are always great. As I mentioned before, contacts in your network, and even partnership with suppliers. And this is very beneficial because ultimately there's already a relationship established from a business standpoint, and there's trust available, so you already know and are familiar with this resource. For transportation, streamlining vendors for a better price is always encouraged. Negotiating rates with the best carrier is always a great thing. Offering large volume of work to help offset rates is strongly encouraged. And consolidating shipments are just a few ways to help with transportation. Lastly, I will review supply chain management, common issues that occur within it, and ways to avoid these issues. So common issues for small businesses within supply chain management is visibility, because although there is a demand for the product or service being offered, being a smaller company in relation to the competition can prevent the company from being visible to the logistics providers. So this correlates to size. Being a smaller business in comparison to larger counterparts can allow for many elements of operation to be more difficult, not impossible, but a little more difficult at times. Cash and finance are always variables that can at times provide issues. Funding may not be as readily available for various needs presented throughout the operation. So in being a smaller business, you want to do as much as possible to avoid these common issues that we've just discussed. So one of the key things that can be done is just taking advantage of the smarter and more efficient systems that are now available. There's so many technological advancements that have been made, a lot more systems that are readily available. There's resources out there for training to learn how to use these systems. There's also resources out there to help find the system that can help most benefit the business. So just take advantage of those, and they can even be customized to meet the budget. Maybe now you can only afford a smaller, streamlined system, and down the road as the company progresses, you can get a better system or even hire someone on full time to become a master at the system in and of itself. So these are just this is the most beneficial way to help avoid these issues that we discussed. Below are my sources that I use for my presentation, and thank you for taking the time to review and listen to my presentation. Thank you.